Good morning, everybody. You're back here again at Carmela's Rasslin Radio Relived. I am here with my buddy Jeannie, the love of my life. How you doing,
Hi,
honey?
love you. I'm
Love
doing
you
good. How are
too.
you?
I'm good, thank you. And right now we have Brian sitting in the wings, waiting to decide whether he has questions for today or not. And then we have a wonderful guest who um,
Yes,
we know so well, and he's so amazing. And if you
so
look, he's
amazing.
standing right there behind me. Okay, but no makeup today. His name is Glen Osbourne, and he is known as the madman from the Badlands. So let's bring him on right now, and hopefully everybody's at home clapping. Hi, Glen.
Yay!
Hey,
How you
how are
doing,
you
honey?
ladies today? It's good to see you.
Good to see you. We're good. We're good. And I'm so excited to have you on the show because as I told you on the phone, this is what we do. We do old school stuff pretty much. We do things from the past. We do a lot of uh stuff that's not today. In other words, like where with all today's wrestling, it's like you can only watch it on TV. There's not much else you can do or pay thousands of dollars to go see it in person. But
Yeah.
with what we're doing here, we have people like you who come on and have incredible stories to tell. And we like to hear stories about, what went on in your life and how you started. And so right now I'm going to turn it over to you and I'm going to ask you, because I have some notes here. I looked at your Wikipedia and I looked at some research. You got some pretty impressive stuff back here, mister.
Oh,
Um,
thanks. Yeah.
yeah, I'm very impressed. So was Jeannie. But we're going to let you go on ahead and tell us how you got started.
Oh, wow. Well, first of all, thanks for having me. It is great to see you too. I was saying, Carmela, remember, I don't think we've seen each other since probably 2009 with the
No.
TWA reunion in New Jersey. So,
Yeah, exactly.
but that's where, yeah, I mean, as you both know, that's where it started was with Tri-State. Way back in 1989 was when I had my tryout, actually with the Monster Factory,
Okay.
and that didn't wind up working out. A lot of my time in wrestling coincided with my school time and getting my education. So the Monster Factory didn't work out. But then I was told by a friend of mine about Rasslin Radio, and I heard the show for the first time. I was out in the suburbs. I'm not too far outside the city, but so my friend Brian turned me on to it way back, and I started listening. It was like, wow, and I love the emphasis on the Philadelphia area scene. You know, we had the guys like before I was around, Tony Stetson and Johnny Hotbody. You know, Larry and DC Drake and Mike Kalua and Tom Brady. I went on. You know, so
Right.
I had heard the ads for the school starting for ringmasters in Northeast Philly. So I decided to try out there since I didn't wind up going to the Monster Factory, and it was a perfect fit. I
And
went
that
up.
was
I
Joel
passed.
Goodhart's school, right?
That was Joel Goodhart's
Joel
school.
Goodhart's
Yeah.
school, right?
So,
Okay.
mhm. So I tried out there and passed, and started training with Larry Winters. It was Larry primarily, and Ron Shaw at the beginning.
Hmm.
Ron wasn't there too long, but Larry was there the whole time. And I think what was neat about Joel's school was you had a guy like Larry as a head trainer who had, was such an obviously amazing worker in the ring, but I mean, just an amazing person outside of it. I think he was the perfect trainer for me because he was not the kind to scream and yell, or he worked us really hard and he taught us, but he was very patient. And I think I needed more of that kind of a hand in my training
Right.
than a militant, kind of. You hear the horror stories, and of course we worked super hard, but Larry was, okay, you didn't get it, try it again, try it again. And Joel was like that too. He was very open about what we needed to improve upon, but he was very positive too. So it was a great training environment that way. Um, and of course, that led with bookings right away with Tri State. And the first matches I had were my first match was with Big Slam, who back then was, Crybaby Waldo. And
Hmm.
I think that was maybe a minute. I was in a handicap match with my partner and kayfabe brother Johnny O against Waldo, who was this big 400-pound monster, and we didn't last too long, needless to say. But and so we did some of that stuff in like battle royals where we'd kind of cannon fodder, come in, do a few things, get tossed out. So it was all that kind of stuff, which is invaluable for learning, of course.
Exactly.
But then Joel would put us on the big quarterly shows that he would have, and that was always exciting. And he always gave us a separate introduction. We all had our own introduction, and just to get that experience, in even though we were usually in a battle royal situation, just to get experience like that in front of a bigger crowd was invaluable, going forward. So it really all started there with the tri-state crew, and then, as you know, morphed into ECW, which was became a different animal altogether.
Very much so, yeah.
In that short time when it first became ECW, it became more, they were taking it in more of a seemingly cartoony kind of way for a while. And then ECW Extreme came in with all that hardcore stuff that, Tri-State had really got the ball rolling with that way years ago. So that was the start. Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, no, I'm sorry. It's funny because I just wanted to say that Joel and I were partners. Joel was on the show a few weeks back, and he and I discussed the fact that in reality, it was the start of Rasslin Radio and Squared Circle that actually started a lot of this stuff. And, we'll never get the recognition for it, obviously, but the Attitude Era and all the blood and guts and all that. I mean, yeah, it happened years ago, definitely in the old school, but this was something that started with us. Okay. Mm-hmm. And I got to be honest, Joel and I parted ways because I had a baby, mm-hmm. and, I had other stuff going on, and we did not part in a bad way or anything like that. So we're still friends. We still talk all the time. Matter of fact, Jeannie and I were there a couple weeks ago cooking them chicken cutlets. Yep. So, nice. So but the thing is that he went on, from Rasslin Radio, he went on to do a lot of good. He really did. He went on and he started the TWA, and it blossomed into something that is actually looked back upon today, with Paul Heyman and with the the ECW and all this stuff. And a lot of people, like I said, don't get that. But I wanted to ask you one question before we go on. I'm going to have another episode with DC Drake and mm-hmm. Joel Goodhart. I was going to see if maybe you would be interested in coming back on that show with them. Would that be doable?
Absolutely. Yeah, that would be great. Sure.
Yeah, because I think it'd be important to get more of a feedback and more of a look into what was going on in TWA and what transpired, and how, this little tiny radio station, which made no money whatsoever. We actually lost money, was an integral part of what went on, afterwards. And I think that's important. Okay. But anyway, I wanted to make that statement before I let you go on to something else. But how did you get this character? What happened? How did the character come into play?
Well, that was given to me by, the name Osbourne was given to me by, I think it was Johnny Hotbody, who, it was my very first match, and they had to come up with something. So at the time, Johnny Hotbody thought I looked like Ozzy Osbourne. So he said, "Oh, let's use Glen Osbourne." And then they said, "Well, but we'll change that down the line." So I thought that's fine. Mm-hmm. The paint that was actually Joel's suggestion, if I remember correctly, because Jimmy Giannetti and I were way younger than everybody else. We were just teens when we started. Yeah. Right. So I needed something to look a little older. So Joel suggested paint, and it was originally sort of like Alice Cooper kind of paint. Like it wasn't like ruddy mascara. And then it just kind of wound up morphing over the years into that more traditional sort of face paint. And I think that's because as I got older and bigger and kept training and got bigger and stronger, it just, my gimmick kind of went that way, and promoters kind of booked me more that way. So the paint became a little more whatever it was. So everything was really, any names I've used, like Madman from the Badlands, then it was the Beast after that. These were all given to me. So I didn't really come up with anything too original. The chains and stuff, I think like most people took a little from something here and something there. And the era of wrestling I grew up with and broke into toward the end of it was important to have a gimmick or something, or a character or something, so that's pretty much where that started,
Well, that's good.
Yeah.
I mean, I saw you wrestle. I was there,
I
and
remember
Jeannie was
you
there.
from
From way back. And
the radio show and the Civic Center stuff.
Yeah. And I mean, like I'm going back myself 60 years, because I was 6 years old when I started going to the wrestling matches.
Oh,
my
man.
parents were friends with, I keep saying this over and over again, but they were friends with Two-Ton Tony Galenta. I don't know if you ever heard of him. He was a boxer. Yeah. From way back. And then this Bruno and all the older guys. I always bring up Spiro Sarian because I was exceptionally,
he was awesome.
He was great.
He's very underrated today, I think.
Yes, very much so. Yeah. And that's the thing. There's so many people. Again, this is why we're doing this. There are so many people that are so underrated. And I think that once the fans see this and they listen to the stories and they understand that it's people like you and people like Larry Winters and people like the Johnny Hot Bodies and the Tony Stetsons and blah blah blah, that actually contributed so much to this industry. These are names that people don't talk about at the kitchen table or at the dinner table or whatever. And then all of a sudden it's like, wow, like I didn't know he did that, or I didn't know he, and that's what we want to portray to them. As a matter of fact, I want to let you know, I have a friend named Xavier from work, and he actually listened to me when he was in Scotland. That's how much he liked the show. In Scotland, he listened to it with his friends, and cool. And it's cool, and it makes me feel good because, again, I think this is a contact that people don't have with wrestlers today and can't get. And I think that's important, But I have a question for you. Sure. I did write down some stuff, so you'll bear with me for like being ignorant and reading my paper right now. But I have here that you pinned Larry Zbyszko, and you had the WWWA title. Want to tell us a little bit about that match?
That was really cool. That was WWWA, and they had Larry Zbyszko and I do a short program together. It was 3 or 4 matches probably. So where I had the title, he won it, and then we did a couple matches and then switched it back. It was amazing working with him because obviously, Larry Zbyszko, he's the living legend himself. But we had, as one of the other wrestlers said, we had good chemistry in the ring, which I felt we did. And, when you get somebody like that who will work with you and, and you can wrestle with, and it becomes fun. And he was just a really down to earth, nice guy. And that match that you're talking about, I believe, was in 2007. And AJ Styles and Samoa Joe were the main event. I remember that show. But the highlight for me wasn't just wrestling Larry Zbyszko. It was for about an hour before we were like, I think second to last. So we probably spent a good hour outside the building just talking, and that, to just kind of no pretense. You're just talking to, like 2 guys just chatting. And that was a memory I'll always hold special.
That's great. Do you ever
nice, like on that show, Samoa Joe and AJ Styles had their own dressing rooms. But Larry just dressed with all of us guys, he just,
that's
and
nice.
You'll see that on a lot of these shows is sometimes the young up and comers, they get the big heads and stuff like that. And the guys that have been there, done that are way more chilled out and just really willing to mingle, so I've always found that to be
Well,
the
that's
case.
good though. That's good that you said that, because some wrestlers, especially today, are extremely self-absorbed. You know, they think that they're so cool and they're this, and they're getting paid a lot of money. And personally, I don't
Mhm.
like that. I don't like the fact that anybody thinks they're better than anybody else, and they do that a lot. But I noticed that you and a lot of the other wrestlers we've had on have no trouble remembering dates of any kind, cities, dates, this, that, and I think that's great, because I remember my date of birth, June 16th, 1957. That's it. I don't remember what happened, what year, anything like that. But you guys are like, yeah, I got a new pair of socks in 2008, and it was in Ohio. And we used to do that with Dominic, because Dominic DeNucci, God bless him, and I
Yeah.
told you we're going to do a show on him soon. Um, he had a steel trap, and it sounds like like you're like that. A lot of them are like that. How do you guys remember like all these dates and cities and towns? And
I don't know. That's an interesting question. There's certainly ones that escape memory, but I guess it's maybe certain high points like that. I can remember, I think that match with Larry was, I want to say June or July of '07. I generally will remember the year on things, not the exact date, but
Mhm.
um, I don't know. I guess it's because you have these benchmark moments throughout your time in wrestling, and it's, oh yeah, that was, I remember we were in Baltimore, or it just comes flooding back so easily. So
I mean
sometimes.
that, yeah, that's crazy. That's pretty cool though. Now, I also have something written here that you were in the top 500 of Pro Wrestling Illustrated for 12 straight years. Is that correct?
I guess that is correct. Yeah, that was back when the PWI 500, being independent for so long, an independent wrestler, it was important for us, to get magazine coverage, because TV was such a kind of rare thing to get unless you were going to go do jobs and stuff like that. But so for us, at least in my case, it felt like getting magazine coverage, getting just working as many places as you could, because it was hard to get TV or you didn't have TV. So the
Exactly.
top 500 was such a great way for independent wrestlers to get national coverage, national exposure. Um,
That's
yeah,
crazy
so
though.
that was pretty cool. Now I don't think it means what it used to. Things just don't generally seem to mean what they used to, whether it be titles or magazines. I mean, that's the thing of the past, pretty much.
Yeah,
So
but come on, you have all those hanging up on your wall somewhere, don't you?
I do actually, over to my left. I have a
See, there
couple.
you go.
Yeah, I have a little highlight wall. Yeah, you have to. I don't think it's
Of
being
course.
it's small. It's modest, but there's a few things that I want to remember, so I put up there. So.
As you should, absolutely. It's funny, and like I said, I know you, I know who you are. We met several times. I
Mm,
loved watching you wrestle. But in
thank
all
you.
fairness, and I'm going to be honest with you, these things about you I did not know, and I'm not going to lie and pretend.
Yeah.
I did, like I said, I did the research. I talked to Jeannie about you right before you came on, and I was telling her the stuff I wrote down. And I'm like, wow, this is really, really impressive. And you seem so mild mannered and so humble that I think that that's amazing that you have, all this stuff. I mean, like if I had Pro Wrestling Illustrated, for 12 years, I'd have it like everywhere. I'd have like, oh, Carmela did this and Carmela did that, and but that's who I am, But I mean, I think that's wonderful that you do that, and I want to ask you too, what was your toughest match? What did you have any encounters with wrestlers that you didn't like, or any bad experiences that you were willing to share with us?
Um, I've got to say, I'm probably going to be kind of rare in this aspect. Is that I've pretty much liked everyone, in the business. I've seen everyone. I go into it as seeing people as a potential friend, unless there's a reason otherwise. So I haven't had too many bad experiences that way. I think it's also kind of how you look at it. It's how you react to it. So I've kind of trained myself. Wrestling can be a brutal business on your ego. And I mean, Larry trained us to be humble. He was as humble as they came. It's just my nature to be that way too. But I'm not going to sell out a building. I mean, like, I just was trained. I wanted to be a working wrestler. Like, my dream was not to main event WrestleMania or to make $1 million. It was to be a working wrestler.
Right.
To get booked where I could and do my thing. And, but as far as a match goes, I mean, there have been some guys that I've worked with that have been pretty snug in there, but it's just their style. It's not that they were trying to be a dick or anything, like Bob Holly. But that's how he worked. I worked with him in singles and in tags. It's just how he was. Super cool guy, but he lays it in. A guy like King Kong Bundy is just so big and massive. Again, another one, nicest guy. I can't say enough good about him, but laid everything in, but it was great to work with. He would bump for you and give you stuff, and when a lot of guys, they learn to trust you over time, they give you stuff and the matches become more competitive. I don't think I'm trying to think if anyone's ever tried to outright shoot on me. I had a situation in 92 in New Jersey. I wrestled a guy. He had like an Egypt gimmick. He didn't know what he was doing. And he had like a bunch of friends who were druids, and they kind of like jumped on me at the end. And so I kind of fought my way out of that one, but nothing that really stands out as like someone like trying to take my eye out or anything.
Yeah.
Usually, and I could defend myself well enough that I don't think I didn't get messed with a lot, and I didn't mess with anybody, God knows, and no one messed with me. So
yeah,
we were all good,
Well, that's good. That's good to know. Well, I'm going to pull Jeannie into this now because
sure.
she was very, very, very close to Larry Winters, and
right.
She can definitely get into talking to you about some of his qualities and how maybe his humbleness radiated to other people.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I remember him. I mean, he had the best stories ever. So funny. But I remember him saying he never really wanted, like, I mean, there's been some televised matches he had, like with the AWA with Larry Zbyszko. He loved working with Larry Zbyszko.
Yeah.
With the ring ropes breaking.
Yeah, I saw that one.
Oh my God.
Yeah. They were great together.
Yeah, they really were.
They were, yeah.
And I remember him saying one time that a lot of the guys today, indie guys, not lack of respect, but he was like, he remembered that there was a time where, I don't remember what organization it was, if it was the NWA or the AWA, but Ric Flair was on the card. And he came into the dressing room and he went up to every single guy and, "Hi, I'm Ric Flair. How are you? Nice to meet you."
Yeah.
And Larry was like, "Who? Of course we know who you are. You're Ric freaking Flair," But that was the respect, old school respect that they did. And he said the guys today just don't get it. They don't get it.
Yeah.
And they don't do that. And he, it bothered him that he didn't. He's like, "Look, if Ric Flair can come over and introduce himself to me, you can come over, or I can come over to you, and you don't disrespect stuff like that." Yeah,
100%. And Larry instilled that in us for sure. Again, I can't say enough glowing things about him. I said he was the perfect trainer for me. And I agree with him about that. Funny story too. Again, Larry Zbyszko is, I remember, I wasn't wrestling him, but a show, and he was sitting, we were chatting, and there was a ladies match, and one of the young ladies, they were kind of talking things out, and Larry said, may I offer this? You may like this for your match. And he, this is Larry Zbyszko taking time to explain, try to impart a little wisdom. And the one girl, when he got done, said, "Oh, thanks, I'll take it into consideration." And I was like, "Oh my Lord," and this was like 2000 and like early 2000. So this has been going on for quite a while.
Yeah.
I stopped wrestling in 2011, and I was starting to notice more of that by the time I got out. So, and Larry is absolutely correct. I think I noticed that the first time when I met Bobby Eaton, and he came around the dressing room and introduced himself to everybody. And same thing is, of course, we know, my God, you're beautiful, Bobby Eaton.
Exactly.
And I was taught that, and Larry taught us that, to go around and introduce yourself no matter what. And a lot of that, especially from what I'm hearing now, is that's, so much of that's just out the window, which is a real
and it is. It's a shame. And the other thing that bothers me, because I go to a lot of indie shows, and I will look and I notice any wrestler, male, female, when they get into the ring, if they don't wipe their feet, I don't like you.
Yeah.
Just I'm not feel. I mean, different if it's like a run-in when they first get in or something like that.
Right.
That I forgive. But if they don't wipe their feet when they get in, the referee, okay, you need to go back to school and learn.
There's basic etiquette.
I mean, that's little and petty on my part, but it's just.
But you know what, though? It's that, but that's the little stuff that, the little things that nobody notices. I mean, even let's take that into the ring. Like Larry made sure, you can lock up and take a headlock and take a rope, and you can do, some of these, again, well, I guess I was spoiled. You have somebody like Larry and as your trainer, and Ron Shaw, and then the first guys I'm around are my first show: Tom Brandy, King Kalua, Johnny Hotbody, Tony Stetson, Larry, the new up and coming TWA guys, Jimmy Giannetti, so we were really fortunate, though, to have good trainers. There was none of this, this guy was the C or D student in his wrestling school, but now there's no regulation. He can just open a school and train people, and you get this glut of pretend, wannabe pretenders.
Well, then you get the bad training as well.
The bad. That's what that was my point. The bad training, and I was so lucky to have somebody like Larry, and there's still good schools and good trainers out there, but few and far between. And I'm always. I'm always grateful to have had Larry, because he would notice stuff like that, especially now. He would be rolling his eyes so hard, it'd be crazy.
The reason we're bringing Larry up a good bit too is because I don't know if a lot of viewers know, but he is deceased, and he was a wonderful man. And I want to go on to something else right now. I have something here also, that you had a casket match with the cremator.
Tell
us about that one.
That was pretty cool. Jim, the cremator, who is a great guy, great guy, really good worker, and he's a big guy, and he can move, and so we worked really well together as a tag team or against each other, and so they had us split up, and then our series culminated with this casket match. That was pretty interesting. I had never done one of those before that. And I was going over in it, thank goodness. So, it was fun, though. It was fun in the sense any match is fun. But, the psychology of teasing, which is another thing. It's a whole other conversation. Psychology is just pretty well gone. But of trying to get us into the casket, and the finish was neat. He charged me. I backdropped him. He took a big bump into the casket, and I shut it. So that was a lot of fun, and you learn something again. I had not done one of those before. This was probably like 06 maybe. And so that was a pretty neat experience, to do something like that with somebody that you trust and work well with.
Well, I wanted to also point out, and the reason I'm pointing these things out is because we go back a long time. We go back to a lot of the old days, etc. But a lot of the fans are going to, watch this and they're going to say, he was so nice, and like he talked about how they were friends, and he talked about, well, you don't see that today, and you don't, because this again, and I reiterate, because this is why we have this show, because the fans need to understand that you guys are not really animals, and you don't really hate each other. And even though that is the persona that has to come across at one time or another, and the head bashing and the bleeding or the throwing each other out of the ring and blah blah blah, that's the way it's like any other business. People need to understand it's a taught business. Mm-hmm. And I think today there's so much going on with, well, like this was horrible, so and so jumped in, beat them, did this, did that, and that to me is not wrestling. What you're talking about and what we did years ago with the wrestlers was wrestling. And listening to you about how you were trained and how you worked well with another wrestler. See, again, fans need to understand that in order for a wrestling match to go well, whether it's a good match, whether it's a bad guy, whether it's a cage match, whatever it is, two men from 50, 60, 70 years ago and 25, 30 years into the future, they're not going to go in the ring and beat the living crap out of each other for real. These guys get paid to do this. You got paid to do it. We get paid to do what we do sometimes. Okay. But it's important to understand that outside of that ring, you are your own person. You are your own persona. You are a John Smith or a whatever. And I think a lot of the people, like, their hate or their anger, which I guess is what is supposed to happen, is real. But sometimes the real is too real. Like I remember, I think it was Blackjack Mulligan, I think, or Lanza, one of those two. A fan actually jumped in the ring back then when there wasn't the security there is now, and cut his leg from his thigh all the way to his knee with a knife. Yeah, and just flat out stabbed him. And there was a time when the fans were so bad that they actually had to put a cage around the ring. Wasn't a cage match, to protect the wrestlers from the fans, and like you're saying with what Ric Flair did or what Larry did, everybody sees Ric Flair outside the ring as this woo, and I hate you, and I'm Ric Flair, and I'm the best in the world, and yeah, when he has a few in him, and when he's around a lot of fans, yes, he absolutely acts that way. Yeah. But in reality, okay, he really can be very humble, very kind, and like I remembered, I'm only going to iterate with this story. Like I had my little girl when she was about 4 years old with me at the Marriott in Philly, and Flair was in there having breakfast, and she wanted to go see him so bad because she learned how to do the woo, she wanted to do it for him, and I knew that sometimes he could be not very nice, and I knew the persona that he portrayed in public. So I didn't want to embarrass her or have him, be mean to her, because then I have to go slap him, and that's forget it, Yeah. So I said in a loud voice, I said, "Oh, okay, Rick's having breakfast right now, but maybe if he says it's okay, you can go over and say hi." And I got to tell you, immediately he looked up at me. He said, "Of course." So I let her go over, But like I said, there's things like that, and like. Again, people don't realize, that you can look like this back here, and still be a really, really nice, calm, humble person, because you have a life, you have a wife, you have children, you have a job, you have all kinds of things that you're doing. And people, I don't think, realize that. And that's why I like hearing these stories. With what you did with the TWA and the ECW and that kind of thing. And I also have a thing here stating that you are in a Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
ECWA.
Yes.
ECWA.
Can we talk about that?
Yeah. Well, ECWA was my home base for years. From like, I joined there in 93, like pretty much right after ECW. And then I was there from 93 to 2001. Then I was gone from 2001. I came back in 06 till I had to step away in 2011. I always had a great relationship with Jim Kettner. And then when Joe Zanoli took it over, I'd known Joe and Mike forever. So, but Jim Kettner was such a great wrestling mind. And I don't just say that because how well he used me, but I think as far as making a fun atmosphere and a professional atmosphere, Jim was old school, so he ran a really tight ship and he had really good shows. I think the thing is, so much went on. When you had mentioned looking at my Wikipedia page and stuff like that, the thing is, and I didn't realize this till later, the power of television. I did so much of this stuff, but none of it was televised, so
Right.
That's why so many people don't know about it. Or I shouldn't say that, it would be televised in its local market, like
Right.
Allentown or Baltimore, wherever, but it was more local kind of TV. And so the power of television really struck me that way. So Jim Kettner, though, would run shows. It was the closest I think you could come to the territories and that kind of heat. Just every month, he used to run all around Delaware, but then he just concentrated on the one building and would just pack it month after month. And the acoustics, it was a great building.
Right.
So we always had a great relationship, and I had some of my best matches in his promotion. So yeah, it was a big honor to get put into the ECWA Hall of Fame, where a lot of great guys went in there. I mean, I don't think people realize the caliber of guys he's had come in and out of his promotion over the years.
Well, see, that's a lot of that's true that you're saying it, because again, I know I repeat myself. I'm old. When you get old like me, you repeat yourself. My daughter keeps telling me, "Mom, stop." But
not at all, please.
But it's true though. It's true that you don't know, because of the TV, because of lack of TV, lack of broadcasting, lack of, like, even when we were on the radio, it was like so much a lack of everything. We had to do our own advertising. We had to do, and even with the little tiny advertising we did, we got a really good crowd of people,
Yeah.
But that's what I'm saying. There's so many things that people missed that we're not privy to back then, and again, like I said, we used to pick up wrestlers from the airport and they used to stay at our house and eat dinner with us. And these were memories and events that you can never replace. Okay.
Absolutely.
And, it may not be the WWE Hall of Fame, of course not, but it is a Hall of Fame, and it is important. Like, we just had Davey O'Hannon on the show not too long ago, and he's going to be incorporated into a Hall of Fame from Facebook. And to me, a Hall of Fame is a Hall of Fame is a Hall of Fame. I mean, WWE doesn't even have a building that they keep this stuff in. You know what I mean? Yeah. Other places at least do. And I think that that's important, again, for people to know that people like you existed and did great things, and have a Wikipedia page that has a ton of stuff on it. When I looked at it yesterday, you have a lot of titles and you have a lot of interesting stuff. I mean, I literally could have printed out the whole page and read it right here. We wouldn't have even needed you. We could have just talked about you the whole time. I mean, really, but I'm saying that's incredible. No, I'm serious. It's incredible. And then, to see this face here and then to listen to you there, it's like, but it's like people can see you're a real person. You're a real man who has accomplished things in his life that he definitely should be proud of. I'm going to ask you a question. If you don't want to answer this, you certainly don't have to. Okay. Sure. But it's my job to ask.
Sure.
Could you tell us why you stopped wrestling?
Oh, yeah. Well, they say, I've heard it said, you either walk away or you limp away. I wound up limping away, actually pretty hard.
I'm sorry.
Oh no, that's all right. I actually, when I went into wrestling and I was young, I went into it with a back issue that MRIs told me I could have some problems down the line, but I was always an athlete. I was always fit, and so I didn't really. I was so young when I found this out that whatever. So I went on and on. Well, I'm not gonna belabor it. My spine has taken a lot of heavy damage from wrestling over the years, but also very heavy weightlifting for years. I was very involved with bench press contests, and I did some bodybuilding contests way back. And I was always, first of all, I wanted to say I've always been natural. As you could probably tell by my physique, I'm not like, I was never ripped to shreds or anything, but I always lifted. I was always strong. And I lifted a ton of weight, and you don't always come away standing straight up after that. But my lower back is all smashed together, and my feet are paralyzed, and I have no feeling from my knees down. So I walk with a cane, but I had been on a walker. I was in the hospital. COVID was not good to me. I was laid low. I got a terrible infection, and you couldn't get into hospitals during COVID. So by the time I got in, I was in the ICU. I was in the hospital for 3 weeks. I had to go to a rehab facility. And then in physical therapy, I had to relearn how to walk.
Oh my God.
The combination of the injuries and the infection did a lot of damage to the nerves in my legs.
Oh my God.
So, but I'm to the point where I can go, I can hike, I can walk and do these things. But most of the time I walk with a cane. I can walk short distances without one. But it's a long-term recovery process. And I knew this. I'm patient. 3 to 5 year recovery process. So I'm coming up on my 3rd year now. So it's just been all about rehab and recovery for the last 3 years. But my back was terrible when I got out of wrestling. That's why I had to stop. Anyway, I said I wouldn't be long about it, but it turned out to be a little long. But I just couldn't physically do it anymore. I wrestled on a bad back for about 9 months because that's another thing I was taught, finish your commitments. So I still had a couple of programs to finish up. And my last match was January 2011 for ECWA. And it was, I was going to just get out of it for a few months. And now here we are 13 years later. So that was that.
You did the right thing for you. I totally get your back injury. I have 2 spinal fusions. I have 2 artificial knees, an artificial shoulder. I have 23 pieces of metal in my back. So believe me, I feel for you. But and I get the fact that you have to finish your commitments, and I praise you and completely honor you for that. But that is one hell of a thing to have to finish, even though, and that's another thing the fans don't get. How many times wrestlers work disabled, work in so much pain, work no matter what, which then again brings you back to a lot of the dark side of the ring shows because of, wrestlers having pills shoved down their throat, and getting addicted to pills because there is no other relief and the show must go on, So, I mean, it's crazy. It really is. And I was just watching, now that we're talking about that, I was watching Dark Side of Ring the other night, and they were talking about Dr. Saharian, who was the, quote unquote, wrestler doctor. He was the doctor for all the guys. Well, I did research on him too. He was a urologist. I mean, how are you going to be a urologist and train these guys or help them or whatever?
Yeah.
But, it does my heart good to a point, though, to hear you, because you're rehabbing and you don't give up and you keep on going. And personally, for me, I like hearing that because there's so many times that I want to give up and I just want to say to hell with it. I'm over this.
Yeah.
And I have a young boy at my job. His name is Jared, and he's such a sweet boy. But every time we joke all the time, and he'll say like, well, you're 66. You can't do this. Or like I'll say to him, And that's all right. I don't need that help or something. I can get it. No, you can't. You're 66, and everything is because you're 66,
That's funny.
Yeah, and he does that all the time to me, and he's like, what are you doing? Why are you get up early in the morning? You're 66, and we joke around a lot about it. And my other coworkers are doing the same thing now, but it's true. I don't feel 66. I don't want to be 66, in my head. I'm still 25, but unfortunately I am 66 and it's going to stay with me,
Well,
my
talking
birthday's-
about ECWA, I know Jim Kettner, had it originally, and then he sold it to Mike Tartaglia or Mike Bruno when he was wrestling. That's where I came in as far as, ECWA. Going to shows. And then now it's being its own, I can't remember his last name, Ryan, but Joe Zanoli is still involved. John Finnegan are in there. And apparently, and I don't know the dates, I could probably look it up. But they're going back to Delaware because right now they're up in Central Jersey.
Yeah.
I've been to a couple of those shows, but they're going back to Delaware for a show, and Kettner is going to apparently be there. And but a lot of it's going to be a lot of the old school guys. I don't know. Were you invited? Like just to show up and making it?
I'm planning to be there. Yeah, we got invited.
Awesome.
It's also a release event for a documentary that Ryan Kavanaugh is who you're talking about. He took over the promotion, actually.
Yeah.
I don't know what Joe does there. I guess he does booking. I'm not really sure.
Yeah,
is that what
he's
it
the
is?
booker, yeah.
But Ryan spent the last year filming a documentary on the ECWA, and he actually interviewed me last August at my house. So he went around and caught up with a bunch of people. I know he even got a hold of AEW talent that worked for Jim, and so it's supposed to be a pretty big deal. So it's kind of a release thing for that. He's not going to show it, but like a rap party, I guess, and then kind of a tribute to Jim Kettner. So there's going to be alumni involved in, like, there's Battle Royal and some matches and stuff. So I'm just planning to be there as just an attendee and just kind of hang around and say hi to the boys and some of the fans that I have known for 100 years, and just to see who turns up. I haven't been to a show since 2013, a show of Doc Diamond's. That was the last one I went to.
I know him.
Yeah, he's a great guy too.
I think we were at that show, Carm. That was the one that we went to where Snuka was there and Wow.
Wow.
Yeah, you were. Yes, I remember. I remember seeing you there.
Well, when is this Delaware show? When is the Delaware thing?
August 3rd.
Okay, well, we're going to go to that, Jeannie.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah, so
whether we're invited or not, we're going to go.
Yeah, it'd be great if you guys go. I mean, I'm going to.
Well, I want to, and I want the fans to hear this. I want everybody to come. Yeah,
and that's going to be it'll be exciting, and that's going to be back in Delaware at the Newark Boys and Girls Club where Jim ran.
Wow, that's cool.
Yeah.
It'll be interesting. Yeah, we've been to a lot of shows there again with Mike Aglia running it, not Kettner.
Yeah. So that should be a lot of fun. I'm going, like I said, I miss wrestling. I miss being in the ring. I miss the boys and I miss the ladies. I miss the whole fraternity and sorority and community of wrestling. Like I said, when we started, I've liked almost everybody I've come in contact with. I've made a ton of friends that I really value, in wrestling, and it'll just be nice to be back. I hadn't been able to drive until recently too, because of my issue. I couldn't feel the pedals. So well, through a lot of rehab, I can drive. So I'm going to go down there and just catch up with whoever I can. So.
Well, if you want to hop a ride, we'll take you down if you want.
Where are you? Where are you coming from?
We're both in New Jersey. I'm near Trenton, and Jeannie, you're near Deptford, or no?
I'm South Jersey. I'm probably from the Delaware, the Boys and Girls Club, probably maybe 40 minutes away.
Oh yeah, I'm
So I'm
probably
like
about
right.
the same.
And
Yeah,
where are you? Where are
I'm
you,
in
Glenn?
Westchester.
Okay.
So I'm like a half hour outside of Philly.
Right.
Okay. Yeah, I know where
I
that
don't know
is.
if you know Westchester University. I'm like a couple minutes from that.
Oh, okay.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
It's
So
funny you should say that. My ex-husband and I used to go all the way over there to get cheesesteaks.
no kidding.
He was a crazy person about food. He would go for hell and high water to go get a cheesesteak. But yeah, we used
Oh
to
my
do
God.
that. But yeah, if you
That's
want to,
awesome.
if you want to get together, we can do that. Whatever whatever works. If
Well,
I don't
I'll
want you
give
to
you
miss
my
it.
you have my number.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
right, I gave
yeah. And you have mine. Yeah,
Yeah. Oh yeah. True. All right.
yeah.
Cool.
So yeah,
So
give
that's
us a
August.
call.
Yeah, that's August 3rd. So we can either
Cool.
hook something up or I mean, I'm just excited to see. I'm glad to know you two are both going too. So I mean, we
Yeah,
can
we'll
hook up
sit
or
together.
something. Yeah, my God,
And
it's
that'll
been
be a good place to hand out cards, right? To get people to.
Yeah.
And I mean, I'm always asking everybody, do you know anybody that might want to do the show? I mean, if you have friends or anybody seriously who, if this was a good experience for you, and if you have anybody you wanted to share that with, please feel free, to do that. We'd love to have more of your friends. We'd love to have more people on the show who can do these stories and tell us. I think
Oh,
you told us
yeah.
incredible things today. I mean, really, believe me.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And
I'm always
it's
happy to.
thank you. And we talked last night. I was telling Jeannie and our friend Brian that I spoke to Manny Fernandez last night on the phone.
Oh,
I
man.
know, and that's something. Yeah, he's going to do a show for us, and it's funny because he said, and this I got to tell you, it touched me. It really did, because he remembered who I was, obviously, and he said
That's
to me,
awesome.
"Yeah," he goes, "Look," he goes, "I get asked to do podcasts a million times." He said he's doing conventions, that kind of stuff. He said, but I always usually say no. He said because today is just crap. Those were
Yeah.
exact words. He said,
Yeah.
I'm old school. And I
Yeah.
said, oh, I was telling him what kind of show. He goes, I know what kind of show you do. So apparently he did his due diligence too. And he goes, I'll do it. And I was like, oh my God, thank you so
That's
much.
awesome.
Yeah. So we're going to have the
Manny
Raging Bull
was,
on.
I'll tell you just quick. I had nothing,
Yeah.
again, great experiences with Manny. I used to work for him. He ran a promotion, ESW, Eastern Shores Wrestling, which was in Jersey and New York. And he used to book me all the time. He took such good care of his boys. He paid us top dollar. He fed us, always made sure we had stuff to eat or a place to stay. Like I said, I was in college for a good chunk of that. So if I had a couple good nights with Manny, I knew my books were paid for. Everything was, taken care of. And then I got to wrestle him for Dennis Carluzzo. And
right.
Oh, Dennis.
that was another dream. Manny was one of those guys that I idolized. There were so many of them, but I always loved his style in the ring and just, such a tough dude. And I got to meet him with Joel years ago, but to actually get to work for him and get booked by him and wrestle him was just such a thrill. So
that's awesome. I'm glad I brought it up.
Oh yeah. I have nothing but wonderful things to say about Manny.
Oh, you know what? I'm gonna go on ahead and send him this podcast actually. But
Cool.
yeah, but he he was very kind. Again, I don't know. You talk to people 40, 50 years ago, and it was one thing, but you talk to them today, and you don't know how they're going to react. Like he might say, "Carmela, who?" Or I don't want to do that because I did get a lady. I'm not going to mention her name right now. Mm-hmm. And she goes, oh, I get asked to do so many podcasts now that I have to charge for them. And I was like, well, you know what? We were kind to you. Yeah. We took care of you. We did a lot of things for you. And now you want to charge us. So you know what? Go to another podcast. Go do one of your other 90. Okay. Yeah, because we're not going to pay you. It's not what it's about. It's about talking. It's about friendships. It's about reliving the past and sharing it with good people. And so no, unless she changes her mind, it's not going to happen. And
I hear you. I know because it's like I've seen a ton of that. I think that's another thing that keeps you humble. Getting big timed, like you see that a lot, like somebody that you help come up and then they surpass you and then you never hear from them again, or just that kind of stuff. You give someone a hand and then, they want to charge you. It's something gets in their head, like you said, if Ric Flair can introduce himself to everybody, there's
Right.
no need for you to be a superstar or a jerk.
Exactly. I mean,
so I don't know who this is. Maybe they're not a jerk. Maybe they're just doing, but I don't know.
I don't know, but like I said, then there was another person, and Brian laughed about it too. But Brian's our producer and friend, of course.
Okay,
but cool. He said this one, this is a young girl, up and coming, nothing dramatic. She charges $3 an hour. No, $3 a minute. What did I say? Hour. A minute, Jeannie. Thank you. $3 a minute. That's a lot of money when you're just starting out in a podcast. We don't pay people to do our podcast. You want to do it, you do it. If you don't want to do it, that's crazy. But $3 a minute.
That's the other thing. I mean, these people, a lot of them. I don't know. I have a buddy who he's actually my really probably about my dearest friend. His name is Brian Hobson. I want to give him a shout out because his mom, who was I was very close with his whole family growing up. She's battling leukemia right now.
Oh God!
He moved home to help take care of her. His dad, and so anyway, he's the one that actually turned me on to Rasslin Radio years ago. But
oh my God!
Yeah, so he has his own podcast where he talks about paranormal stuff and entertainment, whatever.
Oh,
funny enough, he got to know Tiffany Stratton's father because he plays in a Kiss cover band.
Wow.
So now he's friends with the whole family, and he got to hang out with them WrestleMania weekend at the hotel.
Oh, that's nice.
He met Tiffany Stratton, and so now he's friends with the whole family. They're inviting him to next WrestleMania, this, that, and the other. So anyway, I that's really cool, but it makes me think about how the young talent today, and nothing against her. She sounds like a wonderful person. And
yeah.
She's a great athletic specimen, certainly.
She really is. Yeah.
When people, this is just a saying I have, when you got into the business and you've never not known the term craft services, you probably don't have a feel for how the business used to be, and how
exactly
the territories were pretty much gone when I started, but I tried to work in as many independent promotions to feel like I'd kind of set up my own territory. You know what I mean?
Right.
So
right.
You work in places where you have to go to the same bathroom as fans. You work in places with no air conditioning, change in your car, things like that. Over the years, for every show you get in a nice building, you may have 5 in a crappy one. So
right.
You had said it earlier about the money they make now. It is a little sometimes, when you see people come in and they make that kind of money and they go to NXT for X months and they're on TV. I mean, you remember the days you had to work in the territories 14 years before you ever got a look, and then you didn't have to go to NXT and become a product. You
exactly.
were you, and you came in. Ted DiBiase, he was the $1 million man, but he worked for how long before he perfected his craft like that?
Exactly.
And you're going to learn with NXT how to work WWE style, but it doesn't make you a worker. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
You can't tell them go out there cold. I think that's where working independence is so different. Is they may not know who you are. You have to go every night, get over as a heel or a face. Every night it can be someone that doesn't know who you are. You have to keep getting over and over without the benefit of television. When you know that, when you're put right on TV and it's all built around you, you don't know how to work. You can't go out into the ring and say, let's go 10 minutes. Here's our finish. I mean, they panic. That's one thing I started noticing on the independents before I got out of it, was that people had to know step by step every single spot, and we weren't that way. So,
exactly.
Like Tiffany Stratton is awesome and all, but I don't know if she could lock up with Fantasia or Cindy Rogers or, whoever, some of the great talents, women that we've had, and work a match, not a worked out choreographed thing. And I don't mean to sound like sour grapes. I'm just saying.
No, but you're right.
It's not really work. That's not really work when you're elevated that quickly, put right on TV, and you're doing that kind of stuff. It's not.
And not only that, but you get to practice over and over and over. Like WrestleMania week. How many times do you think those matches are practiced?
I have to laugh with Ronda Rousey going around complaining about this thing that she's complaining about everything now. Have you?
Yeah, don't get me started on her. That'll be another show. But go ahead.
And just this, Logan Paul gets to rehearse. I don't know. I've never seen Logan Paul. I keep up with things, but I heard he's good, but whatever. And she says, well, he has all this time to rehearse and I didn't get to rehearse. If you have to talk about rehearsing, you don't belong in the wrestling business.
Exactly.
It's not about rehearsing. If she was going to rehearse for 6 weeks for that big WrestleMania thing, that's one thing. How do you think guys work night after night after night? They didn't rehearse. They worked.
That's like when you were getting changed in your car, or you were, working and looking for food to eat and ran out of gas with no money. That how could you, that was rehearsing, right? I mean, come on.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah, that's paying dues. And I don't think you see enough of that. There's some really good talent out there on the independents that probably will never get a look.
It's a shame.
Yeah, and it is a shame, the way things are set up. And this is probably the most, sour graping I've done on a podcast.
Well, but
as far as it goes. But you ask the good questions.
If it is sour grapes, then I have it too. Okay, not that I'm
too.
a wrestler. Yeah, you too, Jeannie. Not that I'm a wrestler, but I know what it was like. And that's why, you tell people today, so-and-so is going to win, or so-and-so's getting the belt, or, oh my God, how do you know that? Because it's, you just know. And years ago, I remember, again, going back to Dominic and Bruno and David San Martino used to stay at my house all the time. And he hated it. He hated having to scrounge. And a lot of wrestlers did. They never know where your next meal's coming from. Your family's at home. You have children. Are you going to be able to send money home? Do you have any money to send? You do $50 a night, $50 a night. These wrestlers make thousands and thousands a night. They don't know what it was like. Yeah, they have their hardcore stuff, but they get to bring their children with them. They get to bring family members with them, free tickets, blah, blah, blah. You guys, and again, I reiterate again, 66, again, I'm saying it again. We remember those days because those days you had to do everything alone. You paid for your own trans. You paid for your own food. You paid for everything. You drove yourself. How many times did wrestlers drive and were wound up the next morning or the next day in the ring? They had just come back from driving and they were, I'm not going to say jet lagged, like car lagged, and they were so tired, but had to get in the ring and wrestle anyway,
Well, a lot of the independents are still, like that because they travel, they go from like New York down to Delaware, or Virginia, Maryland, wherever.
That's a lot.
And a lot of them, they might carpool, but it's a lot. And I know because I only go to independent shows. I have no interest in going to a WWE, AEW, TNA, whatever. Not interested. But I have noticed a lot of the independents now are taping their shows.
Okay.
And uploading them to, I know I'm going to get the name wrong, but it's like ITW something. I don't know. I guess it goes up on YouTube, but a lot of them, they will tape the whole show and then upload it on. So I guess the guys can see themselves on TV and the fans who couldn't get to the show, can go. So they are kind of getting into it with the new technology, which is great because if you can't get to a show, and a lot of the independents, that there's like 2 or 3 shows same night, and it's like, which one do I go to? Or it's too far away or, whatever. So that's kind of, I don't know if it's good or bad. I haven't made up my mind yet. I guess time will tell about getting TV exposure. Granted, it's not real TV, but it's, the internet.
It seems
TV.
like things are moving in that direction. I think about, back in our day, if we had the things like YouTube and these platforms to get over, how that might have changed things. But things happen when they're supposed to, and it lets some younger talent get seen that maybe never would. It's just so different. The whole thing is just so, the sensibilities are different. The execution of everything seems different. The way people communicate, everything is just so different.
It is.
The way people watch wrestling is completely different. Now matches are graded on the moves that you do. I always said, new school wrestling is like about the moves, whereas old school is about the heat. It just, that aesthetic has changed a lot. I was told the most important things were to be able to bump and sell and talk and, bleed if you have to. Now you've got to be able to flip and fly. And
I was just going to say, it's how high you can fly. Yeah.
And that stuff. Yeah. And it'll, eventually I got to believe it's going to swing back again. But,
I hope so.
Yeah.
Because
I think it's cyclical.
Back in the day when you guys did a high fly, okay, there wasn't always 3 or 4 people standing there with their arms out ready to catch you.
That's
it wasn't. Yeah, it wasn't like that. I mean, watching these guys and girls they're excellent athletes. They really are. There's no doubt about it.
Oh, 100%.
But but years ago, so much emphasis wasn't given on the athleticism. It was given on the ability, the tolerance, the duration, like you said. The promos, the mic. A lot of these people can't even talk on the mic. They say, that's it. But years ago, it was like, it was real. And it was like, I really hate you. And I'm going to show you that I hate you, or whatever. But like today, it's so different. But I'm going to cut it here, Glenn, because you've been giving us a whole hour of your time.
Oh,
and I really appreciate it.
Sure.
Don't want to keep you on longer than you want to be on. But
no problem.
I do want to ask you a question.
Sure.
You had mentioned Brian previously. Was that Brian Heffron?
No, Brian, another friend, Brian Hobson.
Oh, okay. No. You mentioned him, but I mean the other before that.
No, it's all the same Brian.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, because I've been trying to get a hold of Brian Heffron to do the show.
Oh,
and
he's
get a hold of him.
I mean, probably we're friends on Facebook. I haven't seen him since probably the TWA reunion shows.
Right.
I would think he'd be more. I mean, he's a super guy.
I wrote to him. I wrote to him several times, but I don't even think he saw it, to be honest with you. So that's what I'm doing, and I'm like I said, there's no kayfabe, so I'm just trying to mooch off of everybody else and see if there's anybody knows that want to do it. But that's fine. But
I haven't talked to him. I'd be happy to drop him a line on Facebook or something like that.
Thank you. I appreciate that. But listen, also, like I said, I do want to talk to you again because we're going to have DC Drake and Joel on at the same time. And I think having you on with them, I think would be a really good idea. Especially listening to you. So I will get back to you. You let us know, if you need a ride that day. That'd be awesome.
Absolutely.
Because I always look for rides myself. Because like I can drive, absolutely, but with my back too, it's hard. And
I hear you. Yeah.
Yeah, and I know I can't wait for somebody to say to me, "Was this a Rasslin Radio podcast, or is this just talking about your back the whole time?" But I really appreciate it, Glenn. I cannot tell you how happy.
My pleasure. Thank you very much.
I was so grateful that you said yes.
Yes. Oh, I'm happy to be here, and I'd be happy to. I'm really looking forward to seeing both of you guys too.
Yeah. I can't wait. I can't wait.
Yeah.
If there's any fans out there that want to go, let us know.
Absolutely.
And I'm going to say this one more time. If you guys have any questions, comments, or suggestions, you can contact Jeannie or myself or Brian at 316 Carmela with 1 L. At gmail.com. Please let us know what you think of the show. Let us know, because only by you telling us what you think is how we can improve the show or bring wrestlers back or do things that you need to do. Again, Glenn, thank you so much. I'm going to take you off the screen right now. Then you can go on ahead and just, shut down or do whatever you want, but I'll talk to you later.
All right, great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye. Take care. Bye. Wow, that
Wow.
was, he was awesome. I'm bringing
He
Brian
really
on now,
is.
too.
He really
He
is.
was awesome. Unbelievable. What'd you think, buddy?
Oh, yeah, it was very good. Very, very good.
Very good. Well, this is what I didn't hit end record yet, so we're still talking. But I think that was a really, really, really interesting show. He did give us a lot of insight, like awesome stuff. He's a great guy. He really is a great guy, and hopefully we will be able to have him back again and then expand on the show. As we go along, I'm very excited about what we can do in the future. I really am. So, Jeannie and Brian, I love you guys.
Love you
Love
too.
you.
And we'll, stay on a little bit when I get off here, okay? Because
All
I still
right.
want to talk to you. Love you, and we'll see you next time. Everybody, please come back next week. Brian will let us know when the episode drops. I know I'm 66. Goodbye.